Chu utilizes his playful dragon squad without warning and directs them to confront their opponent while positioned in a wheel configuration. Therefore, the 6 nefarious guys suddenly walked towards Kang, encircled him, and appeared to be getting ready to strike. Kang believed that every single one of the bald men had reached the pinnacle of exceptional rank, and was an expert in their field. They planned to take him on one at a time and systematically drain his inner Kai as they do so. However, he suddenly struck all of them at the same time. This made it possible for him to employ all of the inner Kais at the same time, each of which had multiple properties that he had absorbed up to that point through the process of Death Kai extraction. All of this is possible for him as a result of the purifiability of the Eastern Shining Sage and the effects of the all-accepting power. The other bald men were perplexed as to who he was because he possessed such an incredible amount of force. On the other hand, Chu observed his adversary swipe his sword in his playful dragon squad as they battled one another. As a result of the rage that he was experiencing, he made an angry face by furrowing his forehead and clenching his teeth. Their adversary was able to use a variety of Kais of his level power, including Thunder Kai, Yin Kai, and Demonic Kai. It was unfathomable to him because he had never encountered anything even somewhat like it before. Furthermore, the status window appeared and informed him that he had been successful in harmonizing the art of the White Frost Ghost and the 12 Swords of Thundercloud, and he has made tremendous strides in terms of his proficiency. His accomplishment in wielding his 12 Sword of Thundercloud has significantly risen. He has acquired a 5-star rating in martial arts, and he has both his attribute as a transcendent swordsman and his sword thread now. In addition, the remaining bald men were perplexed, questioning how something like this could even be possible. But they are currently engaged in a fight for their lives, despite the fact that their adversary is getting stronger with each passing moment. "Are you still planning to capture me?" utters Kang. Then he releases much power on his sword. When Chu and the other members of his playful dragon team saw Kang's sword, they were all shocked and they couldn't believe that their adversary was wielding a thread sword, which is the form that can be manifested if transcendence is achieved. But Chu assured them that what Kang had employed was nothing more than sorcery, and that they didn't need to trick his skill. He commanded them to kill their rival. The remaining bald men do as Chu tells them to do. One of them claimed that their 3-wheel configuration was worthless, so they had no choice but to take their opponent's life with a single hit. They have no choice but to launch their most powerful assault on him. Afterwards, they unleashed a great amount of force and were getting ready to fight while Kang incited them to attack him while simultaneously encouraging them to do so. The bald men suddenly charged at Kang while slashing their swords in his direction, but Kang was ready for them. He used his 12 Swords of the Thundercloud second form and his Thunderous Gale horizontal slash, and as a result, his remaining opponents were simultaneously cut in half horizontally. The bald men watched as their bodies separated and fell to the ground lifeless. It came down to just Kang and Chu at this point. Moreover, because of the rage that he was experiencing, Chu gritted his teeth and furrowed his brow in an angry expression. Even with the Kowloon gang, they were considered to be one of the stronger forces, and for the playful dragon squad to be wiped entirely by one person, he just can't believe it. On the other hand, Kang refers to Chu not as the head of the playful dragon, Gongsun Chu, but rather as a dog for obeying Commander T. When Chu heard the name of his master that Kang mentioned, Chu became infuriated because he recognized that Kang was an enemy of their sect, and that he needed to eliminate Kang as soon as possible. In addition to that, he abruptly let forth a dark force that had been contained within his body. Kang, who was watching him, became irritated since Chu was emitting tainted mana rather than inner Kai, which indicates that Chu too got the blessing. Therefore, Chu is going to make advantage of the power possessed by a monster. And it turned out to be true because Chu transformed into a monster in an instant that resembled a lizard and was releasing a smoke on his mouth while his eyes were lightened. Chu suddenly leaped and attacked Kang, who appeared to be waiting for him because he also went towards the monster. In addition to this, Kang saw the eyes of the monster when it became a shining red, which is the reason he suddenly leaps backward to avoid colliding with it. Kang witnessed the transformation of the bald man's body into stone when it hit the red eyes of the monster. In addition, Chu was perplexed as to how Kang evaded his attack, but Kang had been anticipating it all along. Chu reasoned that his adversary must have evaded his hit by pure chance, considering that not even his master was aware of the full extent of his strength. Then, without warning, he started running towards his adversary while his eyes were glowing a bright crimson. When Chu struck Kang's sword, the latter was subsequently cleaved in half, and the grotesque grin on Chu's face widened as he watched the spectacle. After that, Chu launches another attack and blows green smoke at Kang, but Kang sidesteps to dodge it and then launches a counterattack by kicking the monster directly in the face. On the other hand, Kang switched his attention to the wall that had been hit by the monster's breath, and he noticed that the wall was beginning to melt. He understood that the monster was employing armored scale, acid breath, and demonic eyes of petrification, and as a consequence, he was able to determine what kind of monster Chu was, the basilisk. He then hurls his severed sword to the ground, which is what causes the monster to break out in a grin. The monster then asks Kang what a soldier could possibly do without his weapon, and since Kang has no weapon, Chu encourages him to submit and accept his death in an obedient manner. Kang asked Chu why he was so excited because he hadn't even started. Then he lifted his hand and opened his pocket dimension, at which point his scythe gradually appeared in the pocket dimension. He grabbed the scythe in an unexpected move, and it immediately began to unleash a tremendous amount of force. When Chu saw the scythe, he clenched his teeth and wrinkled his brow in concentration. Because Kang was able to produce a weapon seemingly out of thin air, he was quite interested in Kang's identity. He wondered to himself if Kang was someone who had traveled to Zhejiang from the western region. But he decided that it didn't matter because he was going to get rid of Kang at whatever cost and rip him to shreds. Kang, who was bracing himself for the monster's attack, was taken aback when it suddenly charged toward him while releasing force and flashing its eyes in a fiery red. The monster raised his hand, generated a tremendous amount of force within it, and then swung it at Kang. However, Kang utilized his scythe to escape the strike and protect himself from the monster. The monster was surprised and thought that it was impossible since the power of the scythe is equivalent to his attack. It wasn't just a visual deception, but the scythe was an amazing item. But the monster thought that it looked like it was unable to utilize sword kai or sword thread like the sword that Kang used a while ago. And as a result, the monster all of a sudden rushed towards his opponent and he lifted again his arms and strike it, but Kang avoided it using his scythe. And as a result, the scythe slashed through his thigh, but the monster ignored it and seems didn't mind the pain as he stepped back in the wall, then strike again, but Kang used his scythe to dodge again his massive strike, and light was formed when the scythe and Chu's hands made contact. The monster was seething with rage and clenching his teeth because it appears that his opponent is unfazed by the amount of force he puts out and is instead able to easily escape each assault. The startling realization that someone like Kang could genuinely evade each of his strikes caused him to let out a curse. But he had to get rid of Kang by whatever means possible. Therefore, the monster leaped once more and activated his demonic eye of petrification, which resulted in the release of a force. However, Kang was so quick to step back that he was able to avoid being hit by it, then teased of Chu by telling him that he was running his mouth so boldly despite the fact that his self-proclaimed great skill was to covertly mix in demonic eyes. As a direct consequence of this, Chu became infuriated. And all of a sudden, he leaped forward while unleashing chemicals from his mouth and planned to melt Kang's weapon. On the other hand, Kang observed the chemical green item discharge on the mouth of the monster, and he believed that it was time to terminate their conflicts because he will infuse the natural power he has gained from the soul union he has through with Liu Xinyun into the scythe of melting poison. So he simply allowed his scythe to stand in front of him and waited for the poison that the monster releases, when all of a sudden, the status window appears and states that the treasure is filled with natural power, and the treasure scythe of melting poison has accepted Kang as its owner. The sealed authority of the treasure has been unlocked, and the authority cruel poison divine blood has been unlocked. At that time, Kang was standing still while patiently waiting for the poison. But just as it was about to hit him, it abruptly stopped in front of the scythe and dissolved. It appears that the scythe was soaking up the chemical at that point. When the monster saw it, he couldn't believe his eyes when he saw that the weapon used by his adversary appeared to absorb the monster's powerful attack. On the other side, Kang believed that all of the poison that was unleashed by the monster belonged to him because of the cruel poison divine blood, which means that it is an authority that governs over all of the poison within the region. On the other hand, Chu was trembling and was thinking of escaping the combat. He asked himself if it was the fear of death that he felt since he can't move his body, and it seems his body won't listen to him. That's why Kang walked close to him and explains that the armored scale of basilisks is one of the factors that make a battle with one difficulty. But if Chu attacks from the inside, it's not particularly hard. In addition to this, Chu was so frustrated that he couldn't move, yet he still yelled obscenities at Kang and demanded to know what he was talking about. However, Kang chooses to disregard him and instead asks Chu what would take place if he totally absorbed all of the poisonous kai that was contained within his body. Then he aimed his scythe at Chu, who was perplexed at the time because he couldn't believe that the weapon could genuinely consume all of his power. Isn't the effect immediately? Utter King. Chu was hopeless and scared, and he begged for mercy not to kill him. Kang said to stop that nonsense and put the scythe in her mouth, and he shouted, "Die, you trash." On the other hand, the status window appears once more and informs Kang that the scythe of melting poison has successfully absorbed the energy of the monster and that the toxin of petrification has been acquired. After that, Kang decided that it was not the appropriate moment to celebrate since he still wanted to acquire those women who had been poisoned, and he had a lot of things that needed to be done. He made a way out by constructing a portal. In addition to this, he was searching for the jail, which ought to be right about there. Then he saw a brick against the wall and it seemed it was a device to unlock the door, so he pressed it. When the door was opened and the light turned on inside the chamber, he was taken aback since it revealed a significant quantity of gold that had been concealed in that room. Yeom Chin-seok, the leader of the Black Tyrants as well as the leader of the Kowloon group, presided over the gathering of several individuals who were present in the conference room of the Kowloon group. It doesn't matter how much he thinks about it, his ears just don't appear to be working properly anymore, so he told his fellow soldiers to repeat what they had said. After hearing that the third jail had been raided the night before and that the items had not been delivered, the Crazy Dragon squad made a hasty trip to the third jail and confirmed that all of the things that had been stored there had vanished. Meng Dyung-ho, who was the second in command of the Kowloon gang and the leader of the Mad Dragon, abruptly looked at the person who was seated beside him and inquired what had happened of the wealth that was being stored and the remedy that were going to be sold. In response, according to the information provided by the individual, all of the medications have been turned to ash, and anything of value has been destroyed. As a direct result of this, Yeom furrowed his brow, and a fiery color flashed before his eyes. He was irate because it didn't matter how much he heard it. The problem wasn't with his ears. The problem was with the maggots and other vermin like them. He unleashed a tremendous amount of power against his fellow soldiers, who were shaking with dread and had blood pouring out of their noses. Because one of the other soldiers was having trouble controlling the enormous power, he signaled for the attention of their leader and asked stop releasing force. But Yeom disregarded him and gave them the instruction that finding the person responsible for the crime should be their first priority. He inquires of his fellow soldiers as to whether or not they have any information regarding the whereabouts of Gong Sun-chu and the Playful Dragon squad. However, Meng apologized to their leader for his unexpected interruption and explained that he found remnants of the combat. But that was all he found. However, he did find signs of the leader of the Playful Dragon squad employing Divine Kai. After that, the head of the Kowloon group stated that Meng had mentioned that there absolutely wasn't even a single corpse left, and that Chu's primary weapon was poison. Therefore, it is possible that this was the cause. In response, Meng stated that Chu may have been able to execute those individuals who opposed his will, and that the poison would allow the corpses to be removed. Furthermore, Yeom issued instructions to his fellow soldiers and told them that they must begin the investigation with both the chance that Chu may have betrayed them and the prospect that there may be a distinct unidentifiable faction. He added that the case would be handled as an independent investigation from this point on. Everyone in the group got to their feet at the same time and bowed to their leader. They responded with, "Yes, sir." In addition, Yeom believed that the occurrence was on an entirely other level in comparison to the humiliation that he experienced in the Beacon clan, and he believed that his position would be in jeopardy if the episodes in question were reported to the monthly meeting. However, if he is unable to retrieve the wealth once more, their connections to the kidnapping and drug trafficking must be kept secret at all costs in order to honor the great will of their sect. On the other hand, if he is able to sway the new provincial governor to their side in the same way that he did their predecessor, then they must find and eliminate the perpetrator in order to ensure that nobody is able to discover the incident. Afterward, one of Yeom's allies has remained behind and has stated that there are very certainly more than one conspirator, and if there is one thing that is certain, it is that the adversary is not a solitary individual. When Yeom questioned the person why he believed so, the guy stated that they had transferred all of that mountainous money in a single night, and if they loaded the heavy fortune on a carriage, then it would undoubtedly leave a trace no matter how much they attempted to hide it. In addition, as a result of the person's explanation, the leader of Kowloon gave the person the instructions to put other insignificant concerns to the side and concentrate on the task at hand. Meanwhile, Kang was inside a carriage and seemed asleep. Sam, who is also inside the vehicle, advises Kang regarding his finger can come out through the other ear if he continues to do so. Sam asks the clan leader why he went to the parlor when he already told him that he needed to go for the development of the Commission clan. The clan leader, who seems bored, claimed that he went to the parlor to brighten his mood since he's been being punished every day like Sam did at that moment. Sam suddenly scratched his head and laughed at his master since he didn't know why his master was acting like that. He felt like his master's personality got worse than before. In addition to this, Sam was unaware that Kang was considering the girls that he had cured and saved from the poison that they had. He wished for everyone's swift and unharmed escape. When he witnessed the prisoners crying happy tears because they were finally released from jail and no longer have to endure any further hardship, they were overwhelmed with gratitude and affirmed that they will one day repay him. Kang used Death Kai extraction to consume all of the harmful Kai, ensuring that they will not have any difficulties in their life until they have fully recovered. It is far safer to go their separate ways, despite the fact that he wants to assume responsibility to the very end. The wealth that he recovered was sufficient to allow the White Commission clans in Zhejiang to live extravagantly for an entire year. He is not allowed to waste the money that the blood cult earns from dealing with remedies and slave people in some pointless endeavor. He would only make use of it when he was waging war against the blood sect or when he was assisting those who had been victimized by the blood sect. Blood sect, just wait a bit longer, I will crush you all. Utter Kang. On the other hand, the announcement that they had arrived at their destination was made by the carriage driver. He claimed that the location was satisfactory despite the fact that the land was settled and there did not appear to be any source of water in the area. Sam, who was standing by his side, looked up at him in a startled and perplexed manner all of a sudden. In addition, the one who is currently standing on Kang's side appears to be the guy selling the land. He expressed his happiness and praised the clan leader's choice, remarking that the latter truly had an appreciative eye and has made an exceptional choice. Sam's sudden objection to his master's plan to purchase the wasteland is motivated by the realization that if the land is purchased, it will mean that the money was wasted. When the vendor heard Sam, he became enraged, and he made the comment that Sam did not have a good eye, unlike his master. But Sam continued to be certain that the wasteland should not be purchased, and he said that the vendor had no shame in asserting that the unproductive area could not be used for agricultural purposes. Kang interrupts them and inquires of the vendor as to whether or not what Sam stated is accurate. The vendor suddenly laughs and says that it's not that the land can't be farmed, rather, it's just that it hasn't been farmed yet because it's a fertile piece of land that has been allowed to rest in order to maintain its productivity. Because its fertility has been restored to the point that it is entirely full once again. That piece of land is the one that will undoubtedly achieve a great deal of success in the coming year. However, Sam yelled at him and continued to claim that the area was even more of a wasteland and that there is no value in that place. But when his master added that he would acquire all of the land that he had seen earlier in addition to that acreage, Sam was taken aback, and his mouth literally dropped when he heard the news, since it appears that he has struck it rich, seeing as how the price of those territories is not even a tenth of what it is for the other lands. In addition to that, he mentioned that he would prefer to make the payment as quickly as possible. When the vendor found out that the clan leader would purchase all of the land, he gave the man a book and told him that the money would be made immediately if the man signed the contracts. The vendor's grin became wider since he believed he had tricked the man into buying all of the land. On the other hand, Kang told Sam that he can't breathe around with his serious face, but Sam was irate because he cannot see why his master would purchase such a piece of land that has been used for nothing but rubbish. He added that his master might be glad because he will quickly become a wealthy farmer with a big landholding, and that this might make him happy. However, he continued to be irritated, and because of this, he advised his master that they must hasten their journey to the carriage and get there as soon as possible. On their way, when Kang spotted a residence, he requested that Sam accompany him there for a short while. Both of them walked till they reached the entrance of the building, where they discovered an elderly man working on something. When the elderly guy asked them what they were looking for, Kang answered quickly that he was going to purchase one blade from him, but the elderly man was irritated and asked him whether or not their location would have something similar to a sword. However, Kang is adamant that the object appears to be a sword. On the other hand, the elderly man wrinkles his brow and mutters something about watching Kang babbling on about sounds that don't appear to be genuine phrases. Then he asks Kang if he was the fool when he heard who bought all of the wastelands that can be bought. "Old man, watch your mouth," exclaimed Sam. On the other hand, a woman suddenly walks in and sees that they have a customer, but it seems that their customer was fighting with his grandpa. Because of this, she offered an apology on behalf of her grandfather, despite the fact that his grandfather was a kind man, but his words were only harsh. Kang and Sam have both stated that everything is going well for them. In addition, the woman mentioned that she had overheard them discussing their desire to purchase a sword, and she expressed her regret that the shop did not stock any swords. Instead, she displayed some high-quality tools for farming that were made by her grandfather, and if they decide to purchase those products, they will never be sorry for doing so. On the other hand, Kang seemed to be looking for something as he went around the store, but Sam was perplexed by the fact that he suddenly wanted to purchase agricultural implements after buying those wastelands which have no benefits. Even the lady was taken aback when he selected 10 different farming tools to purchase, and then she hastily wrapped the items up and handed them to him. After that, when Kang was saying farewell to the woman, her grandfather turned to Kang and asked what the chances were that they would run into each other again in the future. In answer, Kang stated that they will have reasons to meet one another again if the heavenly destiny continues to follow and the connection continues to reach. Afterwards, they parted ways. However, the lady couldn't make heads or tails of what Kang and his grandfather were talking about, so she decided to ask Kang before he went. However, Kang disregarded her and continued on his way. On the other hand, the elderly man was staring at Kang closely, and it would appear that he is familiar with the clan leader. Meanwhile, the elderly man was inquiring about the best course of action for them. What action, and what do you mean by that? Someone explained. The elderly man said because it appeared he knew something about both their location, and the godmother as well. The woman's rage was fueled by the fact that she had repeatedly cautioned Hwang Gongmang not to call her that way. Gongmang was sweating profusely when he suddenly bowed and apologized because he realized that the lady had released a force. On the other hand, the person who established the Heroic Steel Alliance, a Zhongyuan-based organization that serves as a union for all steel traders and craftsmen, and the finest blacksmith that has ever lived, who is responsible for making 2 of the top 10 weapons in the martial arts world. She was known as Beak Li Lang, and in the martial arts community, she was referred to as the Steel Monster of the 5 Monsters of Zhongyuan. One of the 2 blades that she had fashioned into weapons went on to become the sword of the leader of the Miram Union, while the other went on to become the sword of the leader of the demonic sect. As a result of what happened, every member of the Order, Chaos, and demonic group who practiced martial arts went looking for her. It is almost certain that she would have been apprehended at some point and compelled to work as a slave at a hammering forge for the rest of her life if it were not for the enormous wealth of the Heroic Steel Alliance and her own special martial art. However, she must have aged horribly, thought Li Lang, and she shouldn't have exhibited her irritation to the young lad. She informed Gongmang that, to the best of her recollection, the Beacon clan had no relation with her in any way, and about whether or not she had missed something. I can't think of even a single thing, uttered the old man. In addition, Li Lang suddenly let out a sigh and wondered about when she would finally be done with her fugitive lifestyle, and whether or not she needed to find a new place to hide. Because in her later years, she experienced a miracle rejuvenation as the result of some good fortune from heaven, and she began to live with the appearance of a child in the hidden branch territories of the Heroic Steel Alliance while concealing her true identity. Afterwards, Gongmang stated that anybody who knew her appearance had either passed away or been slain, with the exception of him. Yet, the elderly guy was very puzzled because Li Lang did not behave in such a manner. Li Lang revealed that the 10 objects that Xinyun chose were all things that she made fun of. But she couldn't guarantee that Xinyun had found out her identity only based on those items alone because there were too many eyes around them. Gongmang is able to comprehend her reasoning since, in the event that she succeeded in eliminating Xinyun, word would have unavoidably spread to either the demonic sect or the Union. But Li Lang is unable to remain in their hiding place and waste her time, and because Xinyun craves attention so desperately, she will comply with whatever he asks of her. After that, the elderly man will, without delay, dispatch spies from the coalition to follow him around and watch his every move. In addition to this, when Li Lang opened the window, she had the preconceived notion that Xinyun was some pitiful heir of a wealthy clan who had purchased all of the wastelands around the blacksmith. However, there was something strange in him which was something that she couldn't even understand. Just who are you? She added. On the other hand, the status window appeared and a message regarding the scythe of 1 strike was displayed in it. It was a one-handed scythe that a skilled blacksmith had purposefully made with a deliberate flaw in the balance that it possessed. The category rating of this item is C+, and despite the fact that it was fashioned out of black steel, it possesses the exceptional capability of being employed as a weapon by a martial artist. Kang was astounded by the scythe that he was currently holding in his hands. He didn't believe it was a fabrication when it was said that the Steel Monster was the best blacksmith that had ever lived. He had seen the blood sects report that the Beak Li Lang had been seen by herself in that village's weary shop around, and the natural power that oozes out of the girl that they met in the blacksmith they entered by chance led him to believe that she was the Beak Li Lang. He assumed that the girl was Beak Li Lang because if he had spoken about her identity, then a fight to the death would have occurred. It was fortunate that he had activated the system window just in case, and he was grateful that he had done so since it allowed him to select what Beak Li Lang had prepared for him. Kang purchased the wastelands and then carefully selected the stuff that the steel monster had crafted. After having planted these 2 seeds, it is now incumbent upon him to wait till the fruit matures. Sam appears to be enjoying a dream while resting on the chair inside their carriage, and it appears that he was having a conversation with a female. His thoughts were interrupted since the reason for the interruption was that Kang believed that Sam's failing is that he is unable to appreciate the beauty of women. However, now that Kang was staring at Sam, he had the impression that the fight from yesterday was an illusion, because Commander T and the Kowloon group had probably already begun their movement at this point in order to resolve the affairs. Those ideas that were going through his head were just the first phase of his plan to destroy the Blood Sect. There were still a great deal more steps to go in his plan, because he needs to rapidly improve his strength in order to prevent the murders of any more innocent people. He is unable to act before the Blood Sect just because he can see into the future. In addition, it is necessary for Kang to develop his own style of martial arts by studying a wide variety of other, more advanced styles. In order for him to determine the actual power that the treasure possessed, he needed to enhance his power with additional natural power. In addition to this, he must reach a degree of necromancy that is superior to the one he possessed in his previous life, and he must also improve the overall power of the clan as well as the abilities of his subordinates. Looks like it's time for me to visit Mount Tianmu, he added. The following day, within the Blue Cloud Hall of the Beacon clan, Jinu, along with Treasurer Gok, and Nodi, along with his son, were assembling inside of it. Treasurer Head Gok was perspiring and thought about their clan leader for wasting all of their management fees on the parlor and even buying a wasteland that couldn't be cultivated. He questioned himself, wondering if the report that their clan leader was actually reverting back to his earlier self was true. Then he remembers the day their clan leader took their funds because he wanted to spend it someplace. But when he asks their clan leader where he plans to use it, their clan leader just tells him that he does not have time to explain and that Gok would know later on. But Gok believed that he was not in a position to place blame on others because it was he who handed over the silver ingots as if he was tranced by the clan leader. Clan leader has arrived, announced by someone. Jinu and the other leaders of the factions that were currently within the Blue Cloud Hall extend a greeting to their clan leader. Jinu initiated conversation and stated that the White Cloud faction is devoting all of their efforts to the periodic commission that is now underway as their clan leader made the announcement to start the meeting. They are managing the guard groups with the bare minimum number of people in order to handle the various commissions that they are responsible for. But so far they have been successful in completing everything without any problems. On the other hand, it was reported that the guards who are currently stationed at the White Cloud faction must be the most physically fatigued guards that are currently stationed anywhere. Therefore, the clan leader gave the head treasurer Gok orders to provide the White Cloud faction with more pay in the right quantities and to ensure that no guards are causing physical harm to themselves while performing their duties. Yes, simultaneously utter Gok and Jinu. Afterwards, Gunho was all ears when their clan leader said that their Clear Cloud faction is putting all of their members into the security of the clan all day and night in preparation for attacks from the enemy. Their clan leader asks the Black Cloud faction leader, Gunho, about the training of their newly hired guards. In response, according to Gunho's explanation, the martial arts of the new guards are in such a state that they need to be reconstructed from the ground up. However, because they do not have access to a suitable fundamental martial art inside the clan, it has been challenging for them to continue their training. Nodi also stated that this was the case since there were not nearly as many books on martial arts that had been stolen by Quack Jusan and his subordinates and then destroyed in the explosion that took place at the Red Cloud House. Sparring is the extent of their capabilities because they lack a foundation in a martial art. Doc, the head treasurer, was quite concerned since it appeared as though Nodi and Gunho were about to inquire about purchasing some martial art books, but they are no longer able to pay for any other bills. However, the leader of the clan stated that all of their issues could be resolved if they only possessed an excellent foundation in their martial art. Gok, Jinu, and Nodi, together with Nodi's son, were all taken aback when their clan leader announced that he would find a solution to their dilemma, but that it would take some time to finish, and until then, they would have to wait. Various ideas began to run through their heads. Gok wondered if their clan leader would be able to finish it. Gunho widened his eyes and thought that their clan leader was trying to invent a basic martial art himself. Nodi speculated that if their clan leader was an exceptional genius, then it was not impossible. And Jinu was curious and confused at the same time because he felt that it would be possible for their clan leader to find a solution to their problem. Moreover, the leader of their clan inquires about the whereabouts of the Hwang Rock clan with them. In response, Jinwoo stated that the Hwang Rock clan has dispatched an ambassador to the Mount Huang sect, and that Duak Chil, the individual whose limb was cut by their clan leader, is a disciple of the Mount Huang sect. The Mount Huang sect, however, will not act rashly because they are a member of the order secta that is affiliated with the Murim Union. Kang had an abrupt realization that it was unfortunate since it would have been wonderful if they had provided them with a reason to act first. However, given the fact that they have a short fuse, he questions whether or not he has the patience to wait for them at this time. After that, Kang informed all of the leaders of the factions that they were finished, and then he asked Jinwoo if he brought the item that he had requested earlier in the conversation. In response, Jinwoo handed their clan leader papers, and these are the deferred commissions that are minimum of 5 years old and a maximum of 10 years old. Head Treasure Gok along with Nodi and his son were all surprised, and Nodi stated that those are deferred in words, and he was curious on what are they going to do with the commissions that they declined. Gok stated if their clan leader was planning to take the commission, that would earn as much as 1 year's worth of the clan management fees if done successfully, while Gunho said that those kinds of commissions would force them to put the lives of their guards on the line. In addition, Kang seems to have found something on the pile of deferred papers, then announces that they will be proceeding to commission at the Mount Tianmu. When Jinwoo saw the document, he immediately appealed to him to reconsider his choice because the commission included stipulations that were difficult to fulfill. Even the head treasure Gok sided with Jinwoo and admitted that they were unable to be successful in that commission because they lacked the necessary resources. Shin-woon, however, disagrees with them and argues that they are in the wrong because the guards that will eventually turn out to be the key to success have already been finished. In addition to this, he even swears that the commission will save the Beacon clan. Although it appears that the faction leaders, including Treasurer Gok, had some reservations about the commission on Mount Tianmu, they didn't want to go against their clan head. On the other hand, a large number of guards were going through their training. Everyone appeared to be straining and was sweating profusely as cups of water were being placed in their arms and legs. They are questioned by the in-charge commander about whether or not there is anyone who is already shaking from the extortion, or anyone who intended to quickly and simply obtain command over their own inner Kai. They are required to leave at this time. Willpower is more important than natural ability for those of them who are attempting to learn the pulse arts and martial arts that their clan chief was working on establishing. And those of them who are able to develop their physical strength via determination will be successful. And if they can't back up their inner Kai with their physical strength, it doesn't matter how much Kai they have. Participants were instructed to go into a squatting stance while their entire bodies shook. In the other hand, while Dang and Juge were contentedly watching the trainees, Juge mentioned that it had already been a few days since they had joined the Beacon clan, and that after the investigation into the clan's internal affairs and Shin-woon, who was thought to be the person responsible for the disappearance cases, everyone is only filled with admiration for Shin-woon. He asks Dang whether or not it is normal for a place that is meant to be a den of evil to be so calm. But Dang cut him off and informed him that they had only looked at the families of the clan and that they needed to delve deeper while maintaining a higher sense of skepticism. Because Dang was so incensed that Juge had not addressed her by her cover name, she was on the verge of drawing her sword and slashing Juge to pieces in an instant. As a result of this, Juge was perspiring and made an impulsive apology to Ah-rin, which is Dang's cover name. When Ah-rin returns her blade to its scabbard, it causes him to let out a sigh of relief. However, Juge made the observation that, despite the fact that they are not instructing martial arts for some reason, the training that has been carried out has been quite methodical, and the guards who are in charge of the training are also doing their best to ensure that the students receive the greatest possible education. But Ah-rin seems to be daydreaming as she stares carefully at the trainees and muses that only based on the environment, it's already like a distinguished clan. Or perhaps she is thinking that it's because of the family-like atmosphere that they maintain. However, she was perplexed by the fact that no one had trained them because they had previously stated that Shin-woon is accountable for the education of the Straight Cloud faction despite the fact that he had been wandering outdoors. Why did he hire the Straight Cloud faction if he was going to be like this? She suddenly thought, and because she can't understand Shin-woon and his motive. Afterwards, when someone suddenly speaks from behind to Dang and Jujin and asks them what kind of interesting conversations they are having as a lover, both Dang and Jujin are taken aback and their jaws drop in surprise. It was an elderly white man who was walking around with a tray in his hand that had a cup of tea. Ah-rin immediately jumped up when the elderly guy interrupted their talk, but she afterwards apologized for yelling at the old man because his statements were so ludicrous and his words were inappropriate. No was the name of the elderly guy, and Jujin goes by his cover name, which is Gun. The elderly guy claimed that he had come out because he was bored in their quarters, and also because Nyon had informed him that every guard in their faction had come out. Additionally, Nyon explained to the elderly man that she had prepared tea for everyone in advance because she anticipated that they would be sweating heavily as a result of the exercise. She also learned that a member of the Straight Cloud faction was being held in reserve, and because of that, she's been trying to stand in for all sorts of difficult work, and it's pitiful for her. Meanwhile, everyone was taken aback, including Nyon, Rin, Juan, and No, and they all turned their attention to whoever had yelled. The names of the two trainees who were fighting are Marluk and Ju Da-il. Marluk didn't want to show Da-il any mercy, even after the latter voiced his displeasure and pointed out that Marluk appeared to be attempting to kill him because he was punching him with an incredible amount of force. They were unaware that Nyon, Rin, and Jujin were following them around and watching them. The fact that Nyon didn't know how to serve them their tea was a problem. But the clan leader, who, to Nyon's surprise, appeared behind him and offered to serve the beverage instead of her. On the other hand, Rin and Gun, along with Da-il, Marluk, and Nyon, were gathered by Kang inside the Straight Cloud faction. Kang expressed his regret to each of them, explaining that he was unable to teach them due to a pressing matter. It was said by Da-il that their commander was very busy with his work, which is a statement that is very plausible given the circumstances. On the other hand, Gun grinned and commented that there was no requirement for their leader to offer an apology. When Da-il and Gun look at each other, it gives the impression that they dislike one another. But Kang cut him off and explained that he would be honest with them and said that they had received their first commission. Kang informs them that they are excellent enough, and he will tell them about the intricacies after they go through actual commission together. Everyone was startled, because they haven't even had any training yet. On the other hand, Marluk was ecstatic because he was hoping to embark on a mission. In addition, Da-il inquires as to what their first commission is, prompting Kang to inform them that it is derived from the Heavenly Favor Bank. Rin was taken aback, and she inquired as to whether or not it was the Heavy Favor Bank that Kang had mentioned being the largest bank in all of Zhongyuan, and whether or not it might be the Mount Tianmu Commission that has rattled the entire martial arts community. Rin was perspiring as though she recognized the location, and she seemed to be sweating. However, Kang stated that Rin was correct, and it would appear that the lady has a great deal of knowledge of Mount Tianmu. In addition to that, he mentioned that their client is Gil-gun Pyong, who used to be the head of the Heavenly Favor Bank. In addition, Gil-gun Pyong had created a bank that many scholars looked down upon, but he made a profit on all he had invested, which propelled him into a tremendous position. This was despite the fact that he was a remarkable genius and that he came from a distinguished family. However, due to the vast number of peculiarities he possessed, he was always well recognized by the general population. Gil-gun Pyong was the kind of person who would never think twice about putting his enormous money toward accomplishing the goals that he had set for himself. The entire world of martial arts was thrown into disarray as a result of the commission that Gil-gun Pyong left on his deathbed. It was a commission that would give 10% of the revenue that was earned in the Divine Favor Bank to those who would be able to succeed on a mission to Mount Tianmu, which is where the Tianmu hideout of the 72 hides out of Bandit Union is located. Even though it's a straightforward assignment, they need to bury a little wooden box beneath the summit of Mount Tianmu and bring back a branch from the Azure Divine Tree as evidence that they were successful. The bandits revere the highest point of the mountain as a sacred location. As a result of the constant and brutal reprisal meted out by the bandits, several troops have foolishly attempted the challenge in the hope of claiming the reward. But these forces have all been wiped out. However, because they will put the safety of the entire Beacon clan in jeopardy, Rin appealed with their leader to reconsider their commission on Mount Tianmu. However, Kang reassures them that they do not need to be concerned about those bandits because he is going to be traveling with them. However, he warned them that he does not need subordinates who do not trust him and who manufacture excuses to leave whenever there is any danger. He told Rin that if she wants to stop right away, then she needs to quit right now, but he will still pay her for the job that she has done over the past few days. He also noted his subordinates who do not have confidence may leave the room at that very moment if they so choose. On the other hand, Rin was unsure about whether or not she would go because she has not yet made up her mind. Gun warned her that this was their best chance because if they continue working for the commission, they will undoubtedly meet an untimely end, and for that reason, he wanted them to resign from their positions at that precise moment. But Rin didn't understand because no one was speaking up to quit. Now, what are you going to do? Kang's query. Marluk agreed because he likes mountains. The old man was willing to go because he was old and close to death. He was nothing to fear. Mion and a person who was sitting on her side were both willing to join the commission. Da-il has no other choice but to join as well. And Sima Gun dropped his jaw when Ah-Rin finally decided to join the commission, and he has no other choice but to join as well because of Ah-Rin. The latter begged for permission to question their leader about the strategy they would use to sneak up on the summit of Mount Tianmu. Afterwards, the leader explains to them that they will not go through the bandits' lair because there is no reason to do so in the first place because he has already located an unexplored mountain pathway. After hearing it, Ah-Rin conceived of a new route that sidesteps both the bandits' stronghold and the savage beasts and weird monsters that inhabit the mountain, as well as the numerous traps set up by the Tianmu hideaway. She begins to speculate to herself as to whether or not the Straight Cloud faction's clan leader is attempting to discover the private thoughts of the faction's members. If he had it thought out up to that point and behaved accordingly, then he is a truly thoughtful and complex individual. When the leader of their clan revealed to them that not everyone would be allowed to take part in the Mount Tianmu Commission, all of them were startled, because the commission will need to be completed in the shortest period of time possible with the fewest number of participants conceivable. In order to scale Mount Tianmu, Kang does it by himself. Therefore, he will bring the members of the faction who are equipped with the required talent. Even the selection of the grounds for the Straight Cloud faction had been done with this idea for the Mount Tianmu Commission in mind, which added to Ah-Rin's overwhelming sense of bewilderment. However, she was unaware of the skills that might have been held by those individuals whom she had previously categorized as a ragtag group. Kang yells out the names of Huang No, Marluk, Sima Gun, and Chi Ah-Rin, indicating that these are the individuals who will travel to Mount Tianmu with him. He also stated that it is a tragedy that not all members are able to participate in their first commission, and that he was hopeful that the remaining members would not be disheartened by his decision. However, those individuals who have chosen to remain behind will not be idle because additional commissions have been organized for them all. He appointed Zhu Ti as the interim leader of the commission group, and he will appoint carriers to them so that they may begin traveling to Nanchang and Jiangxi as soon as the sun rises tomorrow. He will hand over Zhu Ti a letter, and once they reach Nanchang and Jiangxi, he will read the letter and they will immediately begin carrying out the instructions that were written down. "I'll do as you command," uttered Zhu Ti, then took the letter that their clan leader handed over. On the other hand, Sima Gun was too obstinate, and he asked Ah-Rin in his mind if they are really going to join in the commission since he doesn't want to, and kept on asking Ah-Rin to withdraw. But Ah-Rin replied that they will need to be with Xinyun in order to grasp what is on his mind. But Kang abruptly shifts his attention to them because he can still hear the conversation they were having when he first saw them at the guard exam. "Tisk, it's far too early to be surprised," he added. Meanwhile, on the Tianmu hideout, members of the first wolf squad appear to be searching for something because the members were complaining that he was going to lose his mind because it seems that they were searching the Mount Tianmu for a long period of time. Some say that he worried that they might be lost and that if they take just a few more steps outside, it will be a dangerous area for them to be in. Their squad leader was infuriated by their complaints, so he told them that if their boss wanted them to do it, then they had better do it, and if they had any problems, they should inform their boss directly and not to him. Or should I tell him in your stead? The squad leader added. Afterward, the first wolf squad continued to move around and look for something while conversing about Xinyun and the Beacon clan and their commission. They said that the Beacon clan is not the place for brothers who are scoundrels and who are digging around in an attempt to injure themselves. One of the members was irritated and swore that as soon as he got his hands on Xinyun, he would separate Xinyun's limbs from his torso and release them. On the other hand, a member of the first wolf squad began to enjoy exploring Mount Tianmu since he was able to learn about the mountain paths because he was new to it. This allowed him to gain an appreciation for the mountain's terrain. When he heard a voice, whether it belonged to a person or anything else, he abruptly whirled around. However, much to his astonishment, one of their members strangled him because, according to one of their members, he was slowly walking towards the edge of the cliff. He was attempting to explain that he heard some type of noise on the cliff, but the man was becoming angry at him for talking back at him, so he couldn't continue his statement. He thought the man was angry with him. The man also gave him instructions to follow after him and refrained from further angering him despite the fact that he was already upset. The man had no choice but to follow the other member, despite the fact that he was still perplexed by the voice that he had heard. Yet, as he had no other option, he followed the other member. On the other hand, Kang, Ah-Rin, Sima and Gun were climbing the cliff at the same time, and the commotion that was noticed by a member of the first wolf squad came from them. Kang informs Sima that he can relax a little bit because it appears like the first wolf unit has totally gone. In light of the fact that he was still getting acquainted with the wall tiger technique, Sima expressed his apologies to him. Marluk and Hwang-no, who were hanging from their waist bound and using rope tied on the waist of their clan head, asked if their clan leader was truly fine and expressed their concern for him. However, Kang told them that he was truly fine and they don't need to worry about him because he was so lucky to be able to figure out an effective use for natural power, and his hand and feet feel as if they are one with the wall even without the wall tiger technique. As if that wasn't the case, he was planning to secretly summon his bone spears to grab and climb up the cliff. On the other hand, Marluk noticed something and he shouted to their clan leader that he saw an empty spot under their feet. So they all abruptly jump except Hwang-no, who was carried by their clan leader since his eyes were blindfolded. It really does exist. Utter Ah-rin. Ah-rin questioned the leader of their clan about how he learned about the location. The chief of the clan, however, did not answer her question and instead stated that he had previously experienced the same thing, but that she always asks questions as if she were conducting an investigation into him. Ah-rin has grasped the meaning of his inquiry and she quickly apologized for going too far with their clan leader, because if she didn't apologize, the leader of their clan might have been able to figure out who they really were. Despite this, the clan leader acknowledges her apology and tells the other members of the group that the location in question is a safe haven that his father had constructed in the past. And it wasn't too long ago when he had an epiphany about the actual function that location plays. Marluk, on the other hand, finds something written in the rock, but he is unable to decipher what it says, so he approaches their clan chief for assistance. The secret cave of all things was described in the inscription that was carved into the rock, and everyone who carelessly enters the location without having made up their mind to do so will inevitably meet their end there. And as a consequence of this, Sima appears to be anxious since there may be a great deal of danger within. Kang, on the other hand, was under the impression that he had arrived at the correct location given that it was the secret way to the summit of Mount Tianmu. 200 years ago, the greatest specialist of formations and trap mechanisms in all of the several martial worlds, and that location holds everything pertaining to manhwa. He can't help but break out in a grin as he discusses his plans to plunder that location for all of the valuable items he can find there. Afterwards, Sima started to light a torch, but his entire body was quivering out of terror, and his eyes enlarged while his face was sweating. He also had a palpable sweaty face, because it appears that he is unable to even take a single step. Everyone is staring at him. Because of this, Kang made fun of him by saying that everyone else is calm, except for him, who looks like he's about to cry. Because Sima had overheard legends of the hidden cave being recounted at the martial temple, he informed the head of their clan that venturing into it would be a highly risky endeavor. Manhwa was utterly deranged, and he was the kind of person who, for the sake of a relatively little disagreement, single-handedly brought down a big religious community. To commit suicide, one must go through the system of his traps and the 8-gate configuration. But the leader of the clan reassured him that there was no need to be concerned, explaining that, as he had stated earlier, he had only brought along individuals who were capable of breaking into the concealed cave. In addition, Sima's eyes abruptly widen, and he points his finger toward the front of their sockets. They appeared to be moving into the first compartment when they noticed what appeared to be a light in front of them. When Kang first saw it, a smile broke out on his face, and he immediately wanted to get started. They proceeded through the opening into the first chamber of the cave, and as they glanced around, they noticed that there were fragments of light that had been affixed to the walls in order to illuminate the entire area. Even though it could just be a cave, Hwang-no reported to their boss that he was experiencing an unexplainable chill. The location must be the first test given that it stated first compartment on the door leading into it. In addition to this, Marluk's vision is restricted to nothing but water, and he cannot see anything else anywhere else. Sima made a sudden approach toward their clan leader and informed them that the structure must have evolved over time as a result of the natural occurrence. As a result, he urged that they go back and look for another route. However, the leader of their clan told them not to because the location itself is a test, and they should pay great attention to both sides. And as they were doing so, Ah-rin noticed a rock that looked like it was barely big enough for one person to climb upon it. And when she turns around, she sees the same thing on the opposite side. This indicates that two people need to get into the water and swim to separate rocks. As soon as he heard it, Sima breathed out a sigh of relief since it appeared that manhwa had a conscience, which made the first trap a little bit easier to set. But when the clan elder explained that practically one would have to swim through the heavenly glacier water while avoiding the armored ghost fish, He was taken aback by the information. Even the clan leader gets an earful from him as he yells at him that the heavenly glacial water is divine water that can be found in the center of the northern sea ice fortress, which possesses the utmost coldness. The armored ghost fish is a monster species of fish that may be found in the thick vegetation of Nanman's jungle. It has scales that seem like steel armored plates and teeth that look like drills. The leader of the clan bursts out laughing when he suddenly realizes that Sima Gun appears to be knowledgeable. And because Sim Gun was unsuccessful in persuading their leader to turn around and go back, he suddenly knelt down on the ground like a kid and started crying. In addition to this, he stated that it was weird and insane because Mang Senya added armored ghost fish to the heavenly glacier water and poured enough of it into the cave to completely drown it. Because he was so terrified, he suddenly took hold of one of their clan leader's legs and pleaded with him to bring him back. On the other hand, Rin was under the impression that anyone who had not yet achieved mastery of the Yin-Yang Kai art form would perish the instant they entered the heavenly glacier water because they would not be able to withstand the extreme cold. It is also believed that the group of armored ghost fish can even consume zenith-level specialists, and that the only people who are able to solve this trial are masters who are able to perform the duckweed crossing technique. It was a more advanced form of martial arts than the parts of a lighter body, which are the types of arts that let one to move freely across the surface of water. And due to the fact that time is running out and the required explanation appears to be sufficient, Kang calls for Marluk to come in front of him so that they may start. Despite this, Rin harbors ill will toward their clan chief, although she was unaware that their clan leader had overheard her thoughts about him. She came to the conclusion that their clan leader had chosen them because they would not be a source of future conflict even if they were to be sacrificed at that location. She was irate with the leader of their clan, and if he had played any games, she would have neutralized him right now. However, she was taken aback because the leader of their clan was instructing Marluk in the lotus position at the time. After that, he sat behind Marluk and placed his hand on the ladder's back. Then he unleashed a tremendous force in the direction of Marluk. Even Sima Gun saw how powerful it was and commented that even his inner Kai was beginning to stabilize as a result of their clan leader's energy. But Rin couldn't believe what she saw when she discovered that Xin-Woon had already attained the level of transcended. On the other hand, Kang was taken aback by Marluk due to the fact that he has not been trained in any form of martial arts. Nonetheless, his 8 remarkable meridians are in immaculate condition, which is the reason why Marluk has no problem taking Kang's energy. The latter ground his teeth together in concentration as he absorbed the energy. Despite this, the status window materialized and it spoke something about the art of energy transmission. It was the kind of transmission method that distributes a portion of the caster's energy to the recipient. According to the status window, Marluk's body is loaded with absolute cold energy, which protects it from damage caused by the cold. For this reason, Kang decided to choose Marluk in the first trial since his constitution possesses the ability that is most suited to accomplish this goal. In addition, Kang was able to comprehend the physical characteristics of Marluk's body by making use of the 100 spirit eyes that he had acquired as a result of the transformation of his martial body into the heaven-defying martial body. According to the status window, the heaven-defying martial body cannot be owned by humans and can only be obtained by monstrous sage. On the other hand, the 100 spirit eyes have the ability to look at the martial body and attribute of targets with a lower level than their own. When the level of one's competency and a skill improves, a greater number of one's attributes increases. Afterwards, Kang gave Rin a look before speaking to her in his mind and revealing that he will only be employing a select few of his talents to ensure his continued vitality. Got it. Dang Rin, he added. On the other hand, Rin was perplexed, and she was at a loss for words because the clan leader was talking to her in his mind. After that, Kang seems to be about to finish sending energy to Marluk. He thought that his body was already good because of the resistance of frost and martial body as well as both the Kai of the Thundercloud and in the Kai of the Eastern Shining Sage, so he should have been able to adequately endure the water. Then, Marluk's eyes open, he stares at his palm, and it was shaking. He can sense the energy that Kang gave him, and he abruptly kneels in the ground. He also says that he met his lifelong leader, and from this day forward till the day he dies, he would remain with the leader. Kang, on the other hand, disrobed himself and stated that Marluk would show his thanks once they had successfully completed the first test. But just as he was ready to remove the remainder of his clothing, Rin suddenly yelled at him and demanded to know what he was doing. Because Rin was a lady, and it is considered impolite for a man to remove his clothes in front of a lady. But Kang puts on a grin and asks Rin whether she thinks he would send his subordinates alone in a dangerous location. Then he informs her that he will be accompanying them himself. Rin was dazed. She couldn't believe that their clan leader would join Marluk on the glacial water. Meanwhile, when Kang and Marluk are standing in front of the glacial water, STmanhawa is astonished when he sees Kang perform the art of energy transmission to his subordinate. He really wants to clear the trial with Marluk, and he adds that the art of energy transmission is extremely dangerous and might cause the caster to lose their inner Kai. And that's why it's only done by the clan or by the heir of the family. In his mind, the clan leader placed his trust in people who he met not long ago. He was a strange one, and he was an amusing person. Kang put his hand on Marluk's shoulder and told him not to worry anymore, and that he would not be attacked by armored ghost fishes. He assured him that. He added, at the count of 3, he must jump into the water and swim without stopping and go to rock at the right side. Rin is not convinced of his plan. The cold of the glacing water is to be managed using the inner Kai. But the armored ghost fishes are not easy to deal with. They were all shocked when Kang suddenly sliced his arms and rushed at the water. And he dives into it, and Marluk going as well. When he dives into the water, his whole body shakes and it is cold enough. He feels the blood on his body has frozen. As he struggles, he realizes that he must survive this and never be disappointed. The clan leader. He swims toward and told to himself that Marluk will never surrender, and he notices that the armored ghost fishes were not to be found, and must be chasing the clan leader. Then suddenly his chest was glowing, and light within him is absorbing the cold, and he feels warm into his body. He rises under the water while catching his breath, and he successfully got into the rock, and he was worried about his leader, and their leader is not yet to be seen. They were all silent waiting for their leader. Kang makes a diving maneuver into the water of the glacier and swims downward till he reaches the bottom. He anticipated that others would claim that it would be bone-chillingly chilly, but he found the temperature to be just right for relaxing and rejuvenating him. To think that he would come across such a fantastic chance so early on in the process of the first trial demonstrates how very lucky he was. Because one of the passive effects of the heaven-defying martial body is something called the 5 elements resistance. And what this does is offer an incredibly strong resistance to the elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth respectively. The cold is being captured by the 5-element resistance, and the Kai of the Eastern Brilliant Sage is absorbing the cold as inner Kai. He does this while standing at the bottom of the glacier water, and he is overjoyed because everything went so well, and was so well planned that he was able to receive such extraordinary and pure inner Kai at no cost. However, Hwang-no together with Rin and STmanhawa who were standing by were curious on what is happening to their clan leader, and Marluk who dove in the glacier water. When their clan leader didn't come up, Rin suddenly made a step forward through the glacier water, and STmanhawa who saw her restrained her for what she was doing. But Rin couldn't stop her because she reasoned that she needed to save their clan leader before it's too late. They were yelling at each other because STmanhawa was worried since it was dangerous for her as well. Get out of the way, shout of Rin. On the other hand, Marluk was additionally concerned about their clan leader who, at that very moment, had not yet emerged from the glacier's water. But he noticed a light emerging on the water, and even Rin and STmanhawa saw it, which caused them to drop their mouths. STmanhawa then grabbed Hwang-no and held him tightly because of the tremendous amount of energy that was growing along with the water. After that, ghost fish started dropping along with the glacier water, and Rin and STmanhawa were surprised to see one of those fish fall directly in front of them. In addition, when Marluk saw the hand of their clan leader grab the stone, then abruptly climb it, it filled him with joy. Kang invites Marluk to feel around the surface of the rock, and he will locate an area that appears to be different. After Marlin located it, they exerted as much force as they could on it. After that, there was an abrupt shake followed by the precipitation of a number of fragments of small rocks. The water from the glacier then appeared to be draining away like a tornado that was sucking in sediment at the base of the glacier. Rin is startled and looks across at the leader of their clan, wondering to herself just what he is. However, she was abruptly brought out of her thoughts when the leader of their clan demanded that she stop mindlessly wandering around and instead pass him his garments. After the water had been removed, they all congregated at the base of the mountain and noticed a staircase. Kang claimed that this staircase was the authentic route to the summit of Mount Tianmu, and because they don't have time, Kang gave his subordinates the order to enter right away, and Marluk was given the responsibility of carrying Hwang-no. They make use of a torch to illuminate their path, and while they are ascending the steps, STmanhawa suddenly thinks about Xinyun, who is suddenly looking so majestic. He has a mountain of questions that he has been longing to ask, and if he does not get the chance to ask, he is going to go crazy. After noticing a boulder, Kang informed them that they had arrived at the second trial. because the route that they were about to enter was too dark, and the only light that they saw was too small, which indicates that it was too distant. Sima Gun remarked that it seems like the exit is quite a ways ahead, and Rin added that the area between is pitch black and appears to be dangerous. Marluk was carrying Hwang No in his back when Kang suddenly turned around and told Hwang No that it was now his turn. This prompted Marluk to immediately release him. The rope that was tied around Hwang No's shoe was suddenly removed, and he asked Marluk to hand him his bow. Hwang No then retied the rope around the bow, and he secured his arrow around his waist. It was shown in the status box that he No did not possess a martial body, but that his attribute was exceptional in hearing. After that, he fastened the rope to the arrow and directed his bow and arrow at the walkway in front of them. On the other hand, Sima Gun was taken aback by the fact that Hwang No could still use a bow and arrow despite having his eyes covered, and he was employing the horn bow of Goryeo, which is said to be the dwelling place of the bow god. The old man gave his response, which was that it was appropriate because he had a tenuous connection with them when he was younger. But Kang cut them off in the middle of their conversation and asked the old man if he brought what he had been telling him about. The old man said, "Of course, I'll shoot it now." After that, he pointed his arrow in the direction of the walkway, and as soon as he let go of his arrow, a light emanated from it that illuminated everything it went by as it passed. When the arrow hits something, Kang tells him to draw back, but the old man appears to have difficulty pulling back his arrow, and to the old man's surprise, Kang suddenly grabs the rope by force and pulls it back himself. When Sima Gun, Rin, and Marluk look at the arrow, they are taken aback when they notice that it has been penetrated by a large insect. When the clan leader inquired about the nature of the insect, Rin exhibited a bewildered expression. She questioned herself, why is their clan leader asking as if she would definitely know what it is? Or is it possible that their clan leader already knows who she is because the clan that she was raised in is the most well-versed in poison out of the entire martial world? As beads of sweat began to appear on her face, she became perplexed and was at a loss for words. Kang quickly let go of the insect and dropped it on the ground before stepping into it. He then announced that the blackness behind him was not actually dark but rather packed with venomous insects. Kang asks Rin and Sima Gun the name of the dangerous insect that Hwang No was able to capture in his bow and arrow because they are currently in a standby position. Rin furrowed her brow and sweat started to form in her face after the query of Kang. But he was confused by her question because there's no way that they made a mistake that would betray their identity along with Sima Gun. However, despite this, she continues to reply that, based on the information she has, it appears to be a black death roach. Rin ignored Sima Gun and continued to explain that the scariest aspect of the black death roach is that it possesses Kai dissipation poison that scatters the inner Kai. When Sima Gun was surprised and asked Rin if she was referring to the abominable toxic insect that lives in the desert of the boundless wasteland. But to Rin's surprise, she furrowed her brow when their clan leader seemed to belittle the capability of the Black Death Roach. In addition to this, just as she was about to say something, Kang turned to Hwang No and asked her to sit in the lotus position because he will once again perform the art of energy transmission, despite the fact that only 2 hours had passed since he sent energy to Marluk. On the other hand, Kang moved behind Hwang No and sat down, after which he put his hand on the back of the older guy. He was sending energy, but he became aware that it was not beneficial due to the fact that he is well over 70 years old and his scars from the past are really rather deep. It is true that his meridians have become worn down, but the more serious problem is that the meridian that runs in the direction of his lower belly has sustained significant damage. In order for this to have happened, he must have lived up to this point while enduring excruciating pain. Because there is now no other option available but to send him additional huge energy. Hwang No bleeds out somewhat on his mouth as a consequence of this. Both Rin and Sima Gun were unable to believe it and inquired how it is possible when Sima Gun was able to sense the energy that he sensed coming from their clan leader to resemble that man. It was because they were able to witness a Grand Taoist give his retirement address on the same day that Rin and Sima Gun became members of the Murin Union. The man had previously served as the leader of the Wudang sect and was known as the Sword Sage Jade Spiritual Master. Sima Gun can feel the same Kai from Xin Wun as the one who has both the Grand Taoist and the greatest swordsman from the Order sect. They are dead wrong about Xin Wun since he cannot be one who has acquired the demonic art. Moreover, Kang was still sending energy to Hwang No when his eyes suddenly opened and noticed that the status window stated his hidden quest. The road to becoming a healer has been completed because he achieved to heal 30 people in a critical condition, and he will receive a massive amount of additional experience for the attribute medical art as a reward. But Kang was confused in those 30 people that the status window mentioned. but then he realized that it could be from the poisoned women he healed at the jail. But his eyes widened when the status window appeared again and stated that he discovered the first medical unknown to the world, and the attribute of the medical art has reached its limit and has evolved to sage medical art. He also obtained the new skills, Reverse Purification, Accumulative Power Reinforcement, and White Wishes. He also obtains the hidden quest, The Road to Becoming a Healer too. In addition, Kang was overjoyed because Sage Medical Arts had reached the SS rank, and it was feasible for him to assume that a necromancer like him would be able to attain the power of a healer because he had used natural power to treat H-Wang No. This made Kang extremely happy. Following that, he told H-Wang No that he had finished delivering him energy, but Kang interrupted the old man just as he was about to question how he had accomplished that and informed him that they would talk about it at a later time. Furthermore, Kang got to his feet and informed his subordinates that, in addition to the Black Death Roaches, he had a sneaking suspicion that the passageway included a number of other potentially lethal trap mechanisms. He asks H-Wang No to protect him since he knows that H-Wang No will destroy the trap mechanism once he has entered the passageway. Understood, uttered H-Wang No. Then he lifted his bow and arrow as if he was ready to strike. Afterwards, as Kang made his way to the passageway, he noticed that the area was illuminated by a dim light produced by those Black Death Roaches. After he asks those roaches to come, a large number of Black Death Roaches fly at him and are surrounded by them. It grabs his entire body in an instant and begins to bite him. But he must bear the suffering. Because of his exceptional tolerance to poison, it is quite unlikely that he will sustain any harm from the poisonous substance in question. In addition, his resistance to poison increased to a S+ rank as a direct result of him using the scythe of dissolving poison. Because he will store within his body the Kai dissipation poison that requires the usage of inner Kai. His entire body is now full of roaches, and they are biting him for as long as they want. He will transfer this poison to the scythe of melting poison so that he can utilize it in the future. Afterwards, he became aware that something was coming in front of him. Let's see, shall we? As expected of the now ghost, he added. On the other hand, during the time when H-Wang No was aiming at their clan leader, who was covered with Black Death Roaches all over his body, he had the thought that even though he was blind, he could still see it. Even though it was in black and white, he can undoubtedly recognize him. Then he suddenly strikes his bow and arrow on their clan leader, and just as it was about to reach their clan leader, the bow and arrow was cut in half, and then it turned to the side of their clan leader and exploded as if it were some kind of firecrackers. When Ah-Rin and Sima Gun witnessed what had occurred, they both furrowed their brows and noted that it was hard to believe that someone would be capable of pulling something like that off. They made the same observation about the blind archer who was guarding their clan leader. Kang, on the other hand, is disheartened after discovering that the Black Death Roaches were the only test for their second trial. Nonetheless, given that he already has an adequate quantity of poison, he just passes through the door and opens